Welcome to the AFR Saints channel, where we provide you daily content on your favorite team, the New Orleans Saints. Do us a favor and hit that subscribe button. Be sure to leave your comments below and smash that like button. Who dat? So Drew Brees sent the football world a Twitter this weekend with a tweet that you might consider returning to football. I figured who better to ask than the guy that quite literally wrote the book on Payton and Brees, Jeff Duncan of NOLA.com, the Times-Picayune. Good enough to join us here. Jeff, thanks as always for the time, man. How are you?
Doing good, Matt. How's it going, buddy?
Very well, thanks. So you saw Drew Brees' tweet, and your immediate thought was?
He must be a little upset. That's the first thing I thought, because if you know Drew, he doesn't necessarily do anything kind of impulsive. That's not the way he reacts. But that's reading between the lines of that message that he wrote. It definitely came across as he was not happy with how things got out yesterday. I didn't think twice about football. The pickleball line right there should have alerted everybody that he was having fun. But I thought more about he wasn't happy that NBC News somehow leaked that information out.
So to be very clear, do you think Drew Brees will ever play football again professionally?
No. I don't know who would think he would. The main reason he left the NFL, the reason he retired, if anybody was at any of his press conferences or saw any of the reaction, was to spend more time with his family. When he got into the TV business, I think he thought he was going to have more time, and it actually took more time than he expected away from his family. So as I understand it, talking to people close to Drew, I haven't talked to Drew about this part of the job, but he went to NBC and wanted more time with his family, and they could not really make that happen with the studio gig. He wanted more games. They don't have a very large inventory of games. So they had a mutual parting of the ways because NBC doesn't really have the gig that can fit what he wants to have time with his family. So why, Matt, would he go back into football, which is going to take more time away from his family than even the TV gig? It's ludicrous, and I don't know. I shouldn't be amazed at what happens with social media today, but I kind of am.
He's on Twitter, by the way. That's a great segue to mention your social media, at @JeffDuncan_. I'll make sure you give Jeff a follow. And, of course, the book is Payton and Brees. The guy who quite literally wrote the book on those two men and the greatest offense in NFL history. Okay, so Drew Brees, you and I, for the sake of this conversation, are going to assume he's going to stay retired. He's not coming back to the NFL. What then should we make of the offseason moves, bringing in a guy like Jarvis Landry and drafting Chris Olave, and what that's going to mean for this offense and for Michael Thomas?
Well, I think what it tells you is Mickey Loomis is doing everything in his power to give Dennis Allen, first-year head coach, who Mickey Loomis obviously has hired, he's given him every chance to be successful. I think he wants Dennis Allen to get off to the right foot in his tenure with the New Orleans Saints. We know his record was not good in Oakland. We know that Saints fans loved Sean Payton. And I think Mickey Loomis is saying to him behind closed doors, hey, I'm going to give you a chance to get off on the right foot differently than what happened to you in Oakland. And he's doing, I think, a superb job of that, because I think this roster's, look, it's not the best in the NFL. I don't even think it's a top 5 roster, but it's certainly good enough if things go well to make a playoff run.
Jeff, I'm really surprised. I mean, Vegas has their total right now at 7.5. That feels very low to me. I mean, admittedly, I'm looking through a black and gold prism, but this roster does seem good enough to be a playoff roster. Where's the holes? What am I missing?
Well, I think there's depth concerns, and we always know there's going to be injuries. I mean, look at last year.
Sure.
If Jameis Winston goes down, I mean, how confident do you feel about, Andy Dalton leading this team? Winston, we don't know 100% going to come back what he was before because he had a severe knee injury. And look, I think sometimes, Matt, we all fall victim of this. Name players like Tyrann Mathieu, like Jarvis Landry, beloved LSU players. But there's a reason they were on the market as long as they were. There's a reason they signed for much less than they thought they were going to sign for. They did not have huge markets around the league. Jameis Winston did. So either the Saints are smarter than everyone else, or we're going to find out, because I really believe that the rest of the country is either sleeping on the Saints or they know something that we here in the 504 don't know.
He's on Twitter at Jeff Duncan _. Jeff Duncan's with us for a couple more minutes. Incredibly, unless if I'm missing something somewhere, the Saints still have about $12 million in cap space. Where else are they going to spend that, Jeff? And are we assuming they are going to spend that?
Well, they got a couple of areas they could spend if they want, but I think they will sit on that for a while. They might bring in another veteran running back. I think we need to ask the question. I haven't had a chance to get with Loomis to find out if they know something we don't know about Alvin Kamara's situation, the reason they have not really addressed running back this offseason. So that's a spot, Matt, they could address. Maybe a veteran backup lineman. I saw that they brought one in today or signed one today. They could provide some experience depth, but there's not a lot left. And you got to remember that they have to have some wiggle room there for the season once injuries occur and you have to bring in other players. So it wouldn't surprise me if they try to keep it where they're at, because that was a goal of Mickey Loomis this offseason, was to get the cap in order. I know we all talk about how great they are at the cap, but the fact is they've had to let a lot of good players go in the last 2 years because of their cap management. Guys like Teron Armstead and Marcus Williams, they really couldn't compete for because they were so tight. So there are ramifications to the way the Saints have done business.
Part of that is in compensating has been some of the draft moves that they've had to make, and they've lost some draft capital because of the moves they've made. And there's some thought, Jeff, that they might be able to recoup some because of Sean Payton. Now, Payton added to his Twitter header the Fox Sports logo, so we're all going to assume now that Sean Payton is going to work for Fox Sports. But if he gets back into coaching, we know that a team is going to have to trade for Sean Payton and compensate the Saints, likely with draft capital. Jeff, I don't know if you have any insight here, or do you have a feeling, knowing Sean Payton like you do, what's going on between his ears?
Well, look, I was with him Saturday night. He spoke at the Loyola University commencement, and he told me he was going to Fox. It's just a matter of when they were going to announce it. So I don't even think they've officially announced it yet, but he's going to go to those meetings this week out in Las Vegas, so he's on board. That I'm sure of. Now, what I'm not sure of is how long is that going to keep him interested. I think he's going a little stir-crazy already, playing a lot of golf, he's traveling. I just know how he's wired, Matt. I'll be surprised if he stays on the sidelines away from the game longer than a year. I think he wants to be in the arena. I know he does. I think this has been good for him. He sounded great. He looked great. I think he's having a good time. But after a year of doing TV and playing golf, I think something will come along that will interest him. I don't think he knows yet. I don't think there's some grand plan. I just think he feels confident that that'll happen. But it has to be the right situation for him to go back into coaching. He's just not going to go to some startup with bad ownership or dysfunctional management. That's not going to be of interest to him. I'm sure of that.
Is a follow-up on Sean Payton. Do you believe that in some way, maybe Mickey Loomis and his willingness to do the draft trade with the Eagles to move next year's first had this in the back of his mind, knowing that they might actually be able to recoup a pick next year because of Sean Payton?
Oh, I'm sure they've thought about it. Now, whether that was part of the motivation, I don't think so, but I'm certain, knowing Mickey, there's no stone unturned with that. And here's another thing to think about, Matt. One of the reasons why they waited to sign Mathieu and Landry was it would not count against their compensatory draft formula for next year. So they think of all those things. That will not go into the formula of free agents signed when they compute it next year. So it should help the Saints by losing Teron Armstead and Marcus Williams, they should recruit at least one third rounder, maybe more next year. So again, they think of these things and certainly factor it in.
He's just one of the best. He's Jeff Duncan. He's on Twitter at Jeff Duncan _, because if you don't follow at Jeff Duncan _, you're going to get isn't like a politician or somebody that's another Jeff Duncan. There's a lot. There's
Correct,
a lot. Yeah. There's a lot of you out there. A lot of you Jeff Duncans. So make sure you follow the right one and check out the book as well. Payton and Brees, the men who built the greatest offense in NFL history. All right, Jeff, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for making a few minutes.
Yeah, Matt. Anytime, buddy. Take care.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.